Paeungulata, a mammalian clade of the superorder Aphrotheria. It's made of the extant orders Hyracordia, Sirenia, and Proboscidea. Their synapomorphies include lacking clavicles, having 4 toes on their front feet, having nails on their digits, their hindgut fermenters, have abdominal testes, and 2 pectoral mammae. Females also have a bihorn uterus. All of them are herbivorous, and Sirenia and Proboscidea have horizontal tooth replacement. Hyracordia. Their fossil record dates back 37 million years. They were more speciose and widespread during the Eocene, and were once the primary herbivores of Africa. Their sizes ranged from that of a small horse to that of a mouse, but they were outcompeted by the bovids during the Miocene, so some evolved to be smaller, while others became more aquatic. There are currently only 5 species found in Africa and the Middle East. Hyraxes are small rodent-like animals with compact bodies, reduced tails, and tusk-like incisors. Their toes are bound together, and they have dermal muscles to change their foot shape. Sweat glands on their feet also increase the friction and aid in suction to the surface. Hyraxes have a very low basal metabolic rate and have poor thermoregulation, so they huddle together and bask for warmth. Hyraxes live in large family groups with 1 alpha male and cooperatively raise their young. They're highly vocal and communicate through grunts and clicks. They defend their colony through alarm calls and actively fighting off predators. Habitats include rock slopes and trees in forests, savannas, scrublands, and grasslands. They can live for 6 to 14 years, which is quite long for such a small animal, and they gestate for 8 months, having 1 to 4 pups at a time. Proboscidea. The earliest fossils date back to the late Paleocene and were the size of a small pig. The characteristic tusks and muscular trunk were absent or reduced in early Proboscideans. They diversified during the Eocene and early Oligocene, and had an estimated 177 to 350 species over their whole evolutionary history. They've inhabited every continent except for Antarctica and Australia. Only 1 of the 10 families is still around, and there are 3 species left, located in Africa and Asia. Compared to the Asian elephants, African elephants are larger. They have bigger ears, an angled, flatter head, concave back, and their tusks are longer and more curved, also present in both sexes. All elephants have a long, muscular, prehensile trunk with which they grasp, manipulate, drink, smell, and spray. They can be 3 to 4 meters tall and 3,000 to 7,500 kilograms. The tusks are ever-growing and can become 3 meters long and weigh up to 400 pounds. They have fan-like pinnae, cushiony heel pads, and they thermoregulate by having sparse hair, wrinkled skin, vascular ears, and they are tied to water, so they like to roll around in mud and they need to drink frequently. Elephants inhabit diverse habitats like savannas and forests in the tropics and subtropics. As adults, they're large enough to escape predation, but they need to eat 100 to 200 kilograms of vegetation a day. They have large home ranges and must migrate in search of food and water. Elephants are highly social and communicate through touch and vocal cues. They have large, highly structured matriarchal herds and smaller bachelor herds. Females can breed every 3 to 9 years, and they gestate for 22 months. That's the longest of any mammal. And they have 1 calf that they then have to nurse for 3 to 4 years. Sirenia has a 50-million-year-old fossil record that dates back to the early Eocene. The earliest sea cows were pig-sized semi-aquatic tetrapods. They became fully aquatic and fusiform by the end of the Eocene, by losing their hind limbs and developing paddle-like front limbs. Almost all the species have been tropical, except for the stellar sea cow, which was found in the North Pacific Ocean. Sirenia hit a modest peak in diversity during the Oligocene and Miocene, and then declined due to climatic cooling, ocean geography changes, and human activities. There is 1 species of dugong and 3 species of manatees left today.
Basically, the only thing in this clade that is not doing poorly is the hyraxes. Although minimal, their threats include hunting and habitat loss and fragmentation. Populations in these areas are just recently beginning to see the negative effects. Areas where hunting and habitat loss are non-existent see high densities of hyrax populations. These are usually high elevation areas difficult for humans to access. The hyrax social structure has seen much research in the past few decades. Living in such large colonies of up to 50 individuals, yet having tremendous territoriality, makes these relationships quite interesting, including their use of latrines. Of the 3 extant species of elephants, the 2 African species are doing significantly better than the Asian, and the 3 are currently doing better than their 161 extinct ancestral species. Although poaching might seem like the leading cause due to its overwhelming portrayal in the news, it's second on their list of threats. Elephant tusks have been historically pursued for their aesthetic beauty and their ability to be easily carved due to texture and softness from the lack of a hard enamel coating. It is an easy income for men, and some ivory trade proponents argue hunting is part of effective wildlife management and that money from ivory trade finances conservation. This is highly unsupported and most likely untrue. The number one cause of their decline is habitat loss and severe fragmentation, which is being propagated by conversion from pristine connected landscapes to patchy farmland. Land conversion causes severely fragmented populations which are unable to interbreed, and also increases the conflict between humans and elephants, which can lead to increased poaching. Measures that will conserve species in Proboscidea should be highly focused on maintaining large connected areas of viable habitat as far away from humans as possible. Upping measures of patrolling reserves, monitoring, and management of populations, and legislation will aid in resolving these issues. The amount of research that is going on for proboscideans is overwhelming. Most notable, however, is their social behavior. Elephants have very complex family bonds. Dugongs and manatees face worldwide population declines. They are important economic attractions in areas where they congregate, as people can pay to observe and even interact with them. However, they are under severe pressure from both this anthropogenic fascination and a changing climate. Dugongs, manatees, and boats don't get along very well. Every year, many of these animals suffer tremendous injuries or even death at the hands of the watercraft. Speed limit signs are used to indicate vital habitat, and these areas are under extreme surveillance. However, accidents are inevitable as the appeal of seeing this dying species becomes higher as they become increasingly rare. Being strictly herbivores, these species eat seagrasses as their primary diet. In a changing climate, this becomes a limiting resource. Warmer temperatures and rising sea levels are forcing this food source to have reduced productivity, which does not bode well for manatees and dugongs. If the grasses are lost, reproduction and survival is severely impacted. This can have serious implications on worldwide populations because they reproduce very slowly. Research on manatees and dugongs is primarily focused on creating synergy between making them publicly viewable and having a sustained populations. One of the most important areas attempting this balance is the Crystal River National Wildlife Refuge. Here, over 250,000 people per year come to interact with them in just a small 3-acre area open to the public. This public interface brings a substantial economic boost to the area. But, as with any other habitat, presence of humans is only degrading it. It would be best to leave sea cow habitat to sea cows. I mean, you could end up like this.
Where is it? Where is it? Oh my God! Shit! Where is it? Oh my God! Get me out of here! my god, it's huge! Oh my god! It's freaking big!